Hello everybody! Today we're gonna go through a project that I'm doing right now. This is gonna be a kind of walkthrough. We're going to be creating this model over here, and let's begin. So first of all, you're gonna have to have a photo or a blueprint. The blueprint is much nicer because it has more details and it's orthographic. So we're gonna go into the front view and you're gonna click Shift and V. Over here, you're gonna go to the back section and we're gonna add it by clicking on this folder. You can adjust the size and the scale and the offset. So let's align it to the center. So once we've done this, we can begin to create the actual model. I've tried a lot of things to create this gap over here and keep a really smooth surface. So you're gonna need a cylinder. We're gonna create a cylinder. This is gonna be 32 segments. We're gonna turn off the height segments. We're gonna set it to 1. And let's move it to the blueprint. I'm gonna scale it down. Let's click C to make it editable. I'm going to create a new object. This is going to be a sphere. It's also going to be 32 segments. Let's make it smaller. Let's move it down until it kind of roughly fits into here. So something a little bit smaller like this. So if you click N and D, you're going to see that we kept both of them the same amount of segments for a reason, so the boolean works a little bit better. It won't really matter a lot because we're gonna remesh this, but still it's gonna affect the way everything gets remeshed. Let's turn off the work plane because it's kind of annoying. We're gonna put this cylinder inside of a bowl object and we're gonna put the sphere inside of a bowl object. And as you see, because of the segments, the points fit perfectly. Let's click on our bowl and click on create single object. This is really important because we're gonna remesh this. Let's put the bowl inside of the remesh and let's keep the mesh density around 200. And also don't forget to keep the symmetric by X. This is kind of really important too because you see the typology is a little bit better when we keep it symmetric. You're gonna see that we have a much better typology than without the remesh. We can create a null object. I'm gonna call this object. We're gonna put the remesh inside of the object. I'm also gonna create a bevel inside of the object. And we can make the angle threshold a little bit smaller until we have this second edge, loop edge bevel. I'm gonna set the subdivision to 3 and I'm gonna set the size a little bit smaller. And actually we have a kind of bevel over here, so we're gonna have to apply the remesh. Let's apply the remesh. So let's double click on the edge. We're gonna click MS and let's bevel it. Something like this would be perfect. You can check right now if we put on the subdivision onto our object, it's gonna fit completely perfectly and we have a perfect shading over here. So let's go to the top of our cylinder. Let's delete this part over here. You're gonna click UN to get the funk break selection. We're gonna click over here. We're gonna delete this. Let's select the loop cut, move it to the top. And as you see over here, we've got a bevel. We're gonna move this to the top and we're gonna click T and just hold Ctrl and just slide this inside until we see the line stop on the start of the new bevel. Also, we're gonna select this loop cut. We're gonna click MS and also bevel this. This is basically what we're gonna do for the other parts. And once we get somewhere here, we can stop because this is not going to be a transparent part of the object. This is going to be colored plastic and we don't really need to make the insides of it. I'm actually going to put this inside of a new group. I'm going to call this main. Let's create a new null. This is going to be cap. Let's create a new one. This is going to be a cap start. So I like naming everything because it kind of helps me if I get frustrated searching for things. You don't have to name everything this way, but it's gonna save up your time in the future if you have revisions. I'm gonna create a disk. This disk is gonna be inside of our cap. Start. We're gonna move it to the top. And we're going to scale it. Let's scale the edge loop to the top. Somewhere here. And for now we can just delete this whole part. And we're gonna do exactly the same thing. Instead, right here, we don't really need to bevel anything, just extruding. So extrude and just scale. Scale while we extruding inside. So this is perfect. And we can actually apply the bevel here also. So let's make this 15. Well, 15 is too low, 25 seems perfect. Let's make the bevel smaller, and let's make the subdivision to something like 3. Also give this a subdivision, and I'm gonna call this cap start. So we forgot to create the inside part on the bottom. And also don't forget, when you put a really low poly object inside of subdivision, it can kind of get a little bit messed up in size. So we're gonna have to fix this. So let's increase it by the X and Z axes, and this looks much better. We're just gonna have to extrude this inside and just extrude it to the top. So I also forgot that there's this little part going out, so the cap kind of sticks to it. I'm going to do this by going inside of our object, making a loop cut, and I'm going to bevel this MS. Let's turn off the segments. We're gonna make this a little bit bigger than we need because we're gonna inset this. So while holding Ctrl, select the polygon selection and press I to inset. Let's inset this a little bit and press MT to extrude outside. And this is gonna apply the bevel, but it is a no problem because we're still able to select both of these parts. And we're able to MS bevel them. So something like this. Let's make the subdivision bigger. Let's bevel this until we see a circular shape. And we are going to probably have a problem that we're going to have intersections. We're going to have double points. And this is fixed by selecting everything and pressing UO. And the typology becomes normal again. This detail might not be really visible, but it's going to play a good role once we make the cap transparent. So let's begin to create the cap and leave the hardest part for the end. So let's continue. We're going to create a cap. Let's create a disk. We're going to move it to the top and we're going to put it inside of the cap. Let's align it to the start, decrease the size and make it editable. We're going to select the edges, select this loop cut, and we're going to move it while extruding to the top. As you see, the form a little bit scales to the top. We're going to scale it. So let's create the thickness now. We're going to extrude it inside until we see that the line is aligned. We're going to move it to the top, decrease it in size, and move it all the way up, and also decrease it in size. This part is going to be done exactly the same way. We're going to make a loop cut, bevel it. Let's solo this out and delete unneeded polygons. Let's inset this and let's extrude this. So we can go out of the solo mode and extrude it. Something like this. We're gonna also bevel it. So this should be fine. And don't forget to select everything, hit U and hit O to get rid of those double points. Let's apply the subdivision to it. Let's look at what it looks like. We forgot to add the bevel. We're gonna add exactly the same bevel. While holding Ctrl, just drag it. We're gonna put it inside of our disk. We should make this size a little bit bigger. So let's click on the disk and let's make the size of the Z and X axes a lot bigger. Everything that should be done is that the shape is just not intersecting with the other one. And let's close the top part by clicking MD and select it, close it, select it, close it. And if you don't really want this shading to appear like this, you can go to your disk, the func tag, and instead of uniform, select the angle and area weighted. So we have done the cap. It is time to begin modeling the hardest part. And I think it's going to be done by doing it through a volume builder. It's going to be much easier and we don't need to see the insides of it. I will start by creating a cylinder. Let's place it on the top. We're going to put it in the cap and we're going to put it in the null, and I'm going to call this top. Let's make this size smaller. let's make the rotation segments something around 128. We don't need to make the quality this high, but when you can, it's best to keep the highest quality once you're going to be working with the volume builder. Put the high segments to 1, press C. Let's go inside of the point mode, move this a little bit higher. Let's duplicate the cylinder, and I'm going to explain why. So let's duplicate it, make it smaller. Play with the scale until we get the proper height. We have this cutout over here, and this is done by kind of a bowl intersection with a sphere. And if we're going to have a single object, we're going to have to cut the sphere in half, and this is going to be much harder than just separating those objects and then connecting them through the volume builder. So I think the overall shape is done. But let's put this one inside of the volume builder, and we're going to see nothing because we're in orthographic view, and we're going to have to put this right away in the volume measure. Let's make the volume builder something like 1. Let's create a sphere. Let's make the segment something like 128. We're probably gonna need a little bit more, but this is okay. So let's make it hexahedron, and let's move it so it stays right into the blueprint, so something like this. So let's look at what it's gonna look like. We're probably not gonna see much right now because we're gonna have to put this inside of a null. Let's call this cut. And let's place this inside of the volume builder. We're gonna select it, and we're gonna press intersect. The quality is really bad, obviously, so let's make this 0.5. So we're probably gonna need to make it smaller. Unfortunately, I don't really know the exact size of the cutted sphere, so we're gonna have to play around a little bit. So it's probably a little bit bigger. So maybe something like this. Let's make the quality better. So 0.1. And you're gonna start to see those segments that I was talking about, and they might go away once we put a SDF smooth onto this. So let's just keep it this way for now. And let's put the bottom one inside of our volume builder. This is gonna go as a just union object. So let's put a SDF smooth onto here. And those segments didn't seem to go right away. We're gonna put the voxel distance to 1. And let's go to our sphere and set this multiplied by 2. Those strange segments went away. And we have this really cool shape. So I had to take my mom's spray to figure out what it looks like really close, and it turned out to be just a small hole with a circular extrude around it. Let's make a cylinder. Make as much segments as you can. We're gonna place it inside of a volume builder, and we're gonna make it subtract. And we're gonna have to put the cylinder below the SDF smooth, so it makes the smooth outline. We can actually take the cylinder outside of the volume measure, and we're gonna apply this. Let's select this circle and move it inside. We're going to inset this all the way down. We're gonna extrude this inside and make a small outline. Select everything and extrude this outside for a little bit. Let's move everything inside. And let's add some bevel onto this. Well, this is really not necessary. So we have finished the model, and it is time to proceed to lightening and making the materials. So let's start by getting our texture ready. And for this, we have to have 2 separate textures. One is going to be for diffuse, well, basically color. And the second one is going to be for bump and also masking the metalness and roughness, because this gray part has to be metal and it has to be poked out a little bit. It's not really hard to do. So once you're gonna have the mask ready, you can just save it as a texture and you're ready to go. So we don't have an actual label, we have a print on the bottle. So let's make sure that our body is in the center. Let's move it to the printable area. Let's go inside Let's make a loop cut somewhere where the printable area ends. And let's make the loop cut also on the bottom part. We're going to select both of the loop cuts and we're going to bevel them. This is done so the texture doesn't fly out because of the subdivision. I'm going to clean up everything a little bit, hit UL, and just get rid of those rings because they're really distracting. MN, we're gonna have to unwrap this. So we're going to unwrap this from the sides and also from the top and the bottom part. We're doing 2 cuts from the sides because our texture has cut in the middle and cut on the sides. Let's go into our UV layout, and the UV looks really messy. We're gonna select everything on the polygon selection and we're going to reset the UV. We're also gonna select this loop. We're gonna go into our edge mode, and this is really important. We're gonna go to the UV unwrap and select restrict to polygon selection. This means that we're going to UV unwrap with the selected edges, only the part that is right now currently selected in the polygon selection. This is extremely useful, especially for stuff like this. So let's hit OK, and we're gonna have 2 unwraps. We're gonna go into our file, open texture, and we're gonna go inside and open the texture that we made. We're gonna stick with the diffuse. So let's stick with the diffuse. Let's turn off our subdivision so we see the texture. This seems to be the left part. So let's make both of them. So let's make both of them rectangularized. This is gonna simplify a little bit everything, and we're gonna align this. So if we didn't make the seams over here, everything would be much worse when we turn the subdivision on. And I'm going to show it to you. Let's turn on our IPR, and right now we have nothing. We're gonna create a material, and right away we're gonna input our diffuse. So let's plug this into our color, and let's add the material to our out. So I was really stupid and I actually didn't include the seams that I did, and this is a mistake. This is my mistake and I'm sorry for it. So we can just get rid of those seams because we don't need those. We're also gonna get rid of those on the bottom, and we're gonna create new ones inside of our UV unwrap. We're gonna create this one, and we're going to create this one. So this is completely my fault, and I'm kind of embarrassed by this. So let's go inside of our render, and right now everything seems to be really good. So yeah, it was my fault. We also have some strange artifacts on the left side. We have the problem on the left because we went outside of the borders from the left side and the right side. This might be the problem. So let's try to fix this. So yep, this is a problem of the UV layout. Before we do everything else, we should light everything up and create the other materials. So let's move our body to the center again. Let's create a camera. I'm gonna create a null for the camera. I'm gonna call this cam. I'm gonna create a new null. I'm gonna call this lights. Let's go inside the camera. Make it 165. Place it in the center. Just move it slightly out and just center everything. And we should go inside of our diffuse texture, and we're gonna have to make this a little bit slightly gray. So let's add levels, and we're gonna have to make the white slightly gray. This is done because basically it is really hard to light up white objects, and if we make the object completely white, we're gonna have a lot of problems, and it's gonna be much harder than it's gonna be when the object is slightly gray. So let's go inside of our body and let's reload the texture, reload the image, and reload the render. And you're gonna see that it's slightly gray now. This is not a problem. It's gonna look white once we light this up. So we're gonna apply the white material to the top part. Let's make it around 85% light. And this looks perfect. Let's turn off the top for a second, and we're gonna add the material to both of these objects. We're gonna turn on our cap, and we're gonna create a new material. This is gonna be called glass. We're gonna make the transmission weight to 1, and the IOR is gonna be around something 145, something like plastic. So let's add a light source. I'm gonna move it to the left. I'm gonna rotate it something like this. And you see that we don't really have a kind of a glass material, and it looks really strange, and it looks like it is kind of like inside out, and this is because of our normal directions. So we're gonna have to go inside of the object and press UR to reset the normals. Well, actually to invert the normals. And right away we're gonna see that the glass is actually looking like glass right now. So we're gonna play with the IOR because it has to have this kind of plastic look. We're gonna make the roughness to 0.1. So you're probably already seeing what I meant about the light. We're gonna make this key light. This is gonna be, of course, a little bit lower. So we're gonna bring the exposure to -4. Well, actually, -3. We can play with the intensity. So we're gonna make a plane right away. This is gonna be in the lights. I'm gonna make this floor. This is gonna have a Redshift tag on it. And the visibility of the primary is gonna be turned off, at least for now. So I'm gonna align this, and I'm gonna make it bigger. So we have some of the reflections. I'm gonna create a new material, and I'm gonna call this floor. Let's put it on the floor and make it brighter. So something like 90. Obviously, we have to move our light source a little bit higher. Our object itself should be matte. So we're gonna go to our white material, and we're gonna add the roughness a little bit. So something like 0.4. 0.4 seems really good. Same we're gonna do on the body. 0.4. And if you're kind of asking yourself about the white color, and also it should not be overexposed. So to check if your object is overexposed or not, you can just press Ctrl. And if your numbers are higher than 1, it means that it is kind of overexposed. So we should lower the intensity of the light. So I'm gonna go to the key light, and I'm gonna change the intensity to 17. We're gonna go to 18. This looks fine. Before we do anything further, I'm just gonna go inside of our render settings. So I'm gonna add a post effects, and I'm going to add a white background because this is important also. And right away we can see that we're getting a lot of dark spots that we should not get. Let's fix this, and I'm gonna do this by moving the key light a little bit to the left, making it more wide. This is gonna make actually everything a little bit over brightened, and we're gonna set this to 17. This looks okay. If you're worrying about those dark back spots, and they're gonna be all fixed by creating a backlight. So the key light actually has to have a little bit lower spread, so something like 0.7, and it's right away gonna make everything brighter. So we're gonna have to settle this a little bit down. So let's make this -4. Let's set this to 100 and just lower this until we get something good. So 24 should be good. We're gonna set this to 20. 20 is actually too high still, so let's make this 18. So lightning white objects, white materials is basically just jumping from one value to another until we get something good. So let's stop and create a fill light. The fill light should be a little bit bigger, and the spread should be at 1. We can make this 19. This looks okay for now. So let's add a backlight. And right away you're gonna see that we're getting rid of those dark spots, and we're actually getting this over brightened, and probably this is because of spread. So let's make the spread at 1 and make this something like 20. This looks really good. So this looks really good besides the glass material, and I have an idea how to fix this, and I think that this is done because we don't have thickness inside of our thickness. How funny does it sound? So let's make a thicken on our subdivision. We're We're gonna make this to 100, and we're gonna make this something like 1. And right away we're gonna see that we're getting this effect that we need. So 145 seems cool. We can make the roughness lower. So I had a lot of iterations, and I was actually going crazy in details, and I was trying to make the perfect glass, and it's actually individual for every situation. So I'm just gonna speed this up, and I will stop on the important stuff, because I fixed a lot of stuff and then I went back to a lot of stuff and then I fixed a lot of stuff again. So it's kind of a mix of unnecessary things. So yes, I'm just going to speed this up. So I'm liking what everything looks like, except the reflections on the cap. So we're gonna select the key and the fill lights. We're gonna go to project and we're gonna exclude the cap. So we're gonna exclude the thicken. We're gonna press this to keep the shadows of it. And I'm going to create a new light. I'm gonna duplicate the key. I'm gonna call this cap. Instead of exclude, just select include. We're gonna move this a little bit to the right, rotate this, make this wider, and make this brighter, so something like 22. Let's add a graph, and in the graph I'm going to add a ramp. This is going to be the general color, and this is going to be horizontal. So you probably already guessed what I'm doing. We're gonna make the intensity to something like 35. And we're having this really nice reflection. So 40 is gonna do it. And we're also gonna turn this off for a second and turn this into our direction. We're also gonna make this small part white. And this is gonna be a little bit different. So actually, let's delete the material. Let's duplicate the white. I'm gonna call this white gloss. Add this to the object. And make the roughness to 0.01 and add a coat with the roughness of 0. So it's just gonna add a slight detail to what we have on the top part. It's not gonna be really visible, but it's a nice touch if we're gonna move the object. So it seems that the top part is not lit up enough. This is probably because we don't have enough light on the top actually, and we can just add a new light source. This is going to be called top, and I'm literally going to just put it on the top. So obviously less bright, something like 5, maybe even lower, something like 2. And let's see what it looks like with the cap on. So looks over brightened. So we have this over brightened part, and this is because of the thicken modifier. If we make this to 0 and make it basic, this is gonna be a lot better than we had. So we have to not get those intersections. So both of those parts are actually not connected. So we're gonna have to go inside, select everything, optimize, and just set this to 0.001. And I would actually make the cap light less intense. Something like 20 would be fine, and it is okay that we're having this really bright background in our cap. We can actually lower this because of the corners that we don't see. And right now, because of this stuff, we can play with the shadows a little bit, so we can add a little bit of the shadow opacity so we see those objects inside. So let's play with the label itself, the most important thing that we almost forgot about. I'm gonna add a bump in metal. I'm gonna add a change range. So the minimum is gonna be 0.05 and the maximum is gonna be 0.4. So basically our current roughness. This is gonna go inside of the roughness. And we're actually gonna have to place an invert over here. We're gonna add a bump map. And we're gonna plug the bump map into the bump map. We can raise the number to something like 2, so it sticks out a little bit more. And we're gonna plug this into the into the metalness. And the roughness in the change range should be a little bit higher, so something like this. We're gonna add to white material more gloss, so like 0.2. I would just fix this over brightened material. We can actually set the transmission to maximum, so the backlight casts a lot of transmissive light, and we can go inside of the details and just lower the transmission. So even a little bit lower. So this looks completely perfect. This is basically done. We can just hit the render button.